No, not just because we look pretty in pink. Although we do.
We do.
There you go. Pink is not a color I would think of myself in, but I actually like that. It came out really, really good.
Yeah, I've learned to embrace the pink over the past few years. I used to be anti tangent, anti-pink, because when you're a kid, the typical, boys have to wear, blue and girls have to wear pink. Well, can't you just let girls choose? And it turns out it's like with reading. I was forced to read, so I hated reading, and it took me years to start reading again. And I love reading, and I love pink now. But it's just when someone tells me you cannot do this.
And I also like that we're doing this very, very slowly. I mean, we don't need to do artwork in the beginning of a podcast, but having that artwork sort of puts you back into it. And the first few sessions that we're having now, and even the ones that weren't recorded, we're like still trying to think, what are we doing? How are we doing it? Exactly. What's it going to look? And so now it's starting to take more shape, like to collect more info and data to make it into something. And I like that. I actually like that quite a lot. So
same. Start shipping. It starts, you can go slow, but just start shipping.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like a commitment, meaning once you have it in the books, and you talked about streamlining before, and I know that when you streamline, you have like a set day and time that you work on it. So once you have it in your calendar, once you have something, any task in your calendar, in your schedule, whatever, once it's there, it creates that commitment on your end. And yeah, it's easy to just ignore it, but obviously you don't want to do that. And you have to find some sort of way of accountability, and doing it with two is definitely accountable. But I know I had to have this channel up by today because that was my task. Right. And like I said, I could have done it yesterday, but I wasn't doing anything yesterday. So it wasn't happening. And this is, I think, a message to anyone who wants to start a new project or a podcast or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, I have to commit now. I have to find 5 guests, and then I have to, again and again and again and again. It's like, start small, even before you're publishing. Commit to it to yourself. See that it's working for you. See that you're talking about what you want to talk about. And that sort of will get the momentum going. And then slow, it starts like a snowball, it starts really slow, but then it will catch up and go really, really fast. And it's going to be fun to watch.
It will be. And at some point, of course, we have to actually ship, not just between, internally, we actually have to ship to start getting, seeing audience reaction. Are they reacting to this type of a clip or that type of clip? What content, where are we going? And I think I did a post about getting started last week, I think it was. And there really is that one thing that's beautiful. It's, you start something, you might not have a very clear idea, right? But it tells you what it becomes. That was something that Kevin Bells told me when we started our Now What sessions. And I thought that was beautiful. It really does tell you what it becomes. No?
It does. When I turned 2, my business turned 2 at the beginning of this month. And when I started the business, I thought this was going to be project management. Very soon I realized I don't want to do project management for other people's projects. That was very soon. But I knew what I didn't want to do, but then I realized what people needed. And it was just like you said, it was from customer reactions. It's from what's coming in from outside. And a podcast or any show is no different, right? You have an idea of what you want it to become, but then you see how people are responding to it and what people are reacting to and what people want more of. And then you're like, well, I could do that. No, because obviously they're reacting to you. They're not, if they're reacting to something you don't want to do, then, well, you're not going to do it anyway. So
I don't know. Hey, I don't know. It depends. I think we have to be realistic there. It depends on, are you struggling to cover your vital monthly costs, like rent? Then if that's the case, I don't know. You found like something that the market is willing to pay for and that you're good at, whether you like it or not. It's not about doing this long term. It's like the typical question of, would you stay in a job that you hate if they paid you $1 million, right?
I wouldn't. For me, it's so simple. I wouldn't. But I'm different. I know that I'm unique in that sense. Most people would. I know that. If you were paid $10,000 a day to come in, flip a switch, and then sit like this, you couldn't do anything. Sit like this for a few hours, and then at the end of the day, flip the switch back. Would you go? I wouldn't. I couldn't. I couldn't do a job. I've left so many jobs that I was unhappy with, and I've moved on to bigger and better. Because for me, it wasn't about the money. But I agree. If you're hungry, if you can't feed your family, you can't pay your rent, you can't live, you're going to do whatever it takes. So yes, is a podcast the way to go in that case? Well, I don't know. I don't know how to monetize
I don't think
podcasts so much.
I don't
So I don't think so. Yeah, it's a long game. So
But I would still take those, take a 10 days or 30 months, $10,000 a day. I would take those, invest them, and leave.
interesting. I don't know. I see. My
Mm.
husband is the same. He'll stay. He'll do whatever it takes.
Mm.
Right. I'm not like that. I have, ants down below there. I can't sit still if I'm unhappy. It just doesn't work for me. So
Yeah, but that's what's interesting. I find that when you have a goal, let's say I said I would invest it because I want to do X, Y, and Z, then that becomes your goal. You go to work and you sit super happy because you're working towards something. When, I've worked with a lot of people in multinationals that had been in the same company for 15, 20 years. They would leave in a heartbeat, but they know that they won't because it's been 10, 15, 20 years since they've been out in the workforce. Are they, they're doubting themselves? No. Ideally, it would be great if the company actually fired them so that they can get a little severance package. But they're not thinking what's next,
right.
So it's making their time there just horrendous. And of course, it trickles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But that's how the toxic workplace starts, because one person is unhappy and he's making everyone else unhappy.
Yeah. Did I just go off on another tangent?
I think so. I think we've sort of gone off tangent again, but that's good. That's that's what we're here for. See, for me, I think the off tangents are going to be more interesting than the actual on tangents, and it's going to take us about 10 times longer to actually get this podcast out, because we're going to spend 1/10 of the time doing podcasts and then 9/10 of the time doing everything else.
If people want, at the end of the day, they like to, I don't know, listen in, that whole idea of listening in or eavesdropping or just being like a fly on the wall type of thing. Maybe sometimes people enjoy that.
I think social media is built on voyeurism. I think that's the entire structure of social media. We want to see into someone else's life. And the problem with it, and this is totally attention for sure, but the problem with that is we never see a true picture. Very, very few people are 100% authentic on social media. And I wouldn't recommend anyone to be 100% authentic anyway. Meaning, even I'm very true. What you see is who I am. But, I have stuff that I don't share on social. You'll rarely see my family on social, for example. But, so there is no such thing as 100% authentic. And most people are actually 100% or 99% non-authentic. All those influencers that are taking a picture 1,000 times until it comes out exactly the way they want it. That's not authentic. And everybody that shares how they're always on vacation, they're by the poolside making millions. Well, that doesn't happen. So, voyeurism, social media is totally about voyeurism.
When a video is being shot, right, between that moment and when it goes live, it loses energy. So when you're recording, you need to come with even more energy because that energy is going to be lost, right?
You can't fake being in front of an audience. You can't fake being in front of people. I think if I think about the sitcoms in the 70s, on TV, recorded in front of a live studio audience, there's a reason that they needed that audience there. They needed it for the energy. They needed it to play off. A rehearsal is never as good as the real thing because the audience isn't there. And so that gives off an energy that I'm talking to you and I'm getting all excited. I'm not going to get excited in front of a camera. What?
Well, it is possible. It's just that not everyone has that naturally, and not everyone maybe wants to hone that skill. But it is possible. There are people that are like amazing.
We were recording. We called ourselves the Soul Sisters. We were four friends who worked at a company. The company was called Buddy and Soul. But so we called ourselves the Soul Sisters, right? And we would talk about design and copy and automations and workflows and whatever when we were starting out. Video quality was bad, sound quality was bad, but we always had snippets that we could then use. What takes time for me is that subtitling and reviewing it, and because the editing is fast, right? But it's like, and I believe in putting out things with subtitles so that people can enjoy them, so that everyone can enjoy them, especially since it's not just for people who can't hear. It's also for most people don't want to listen. They want to listen, that they watch videos on silent because somebody's sleeping in the other room or whatever.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed with the subtitles though, and this might actually get you to start thinking about it differently, is there are people. So if you keep the snippets between 30 and 90 seconds, right? Because we talked about those. I've had some snippets that were 5 minutes. It's just because I think it's it's a pity not to have that full 5 minutes, for example.
Mhm.
But I've seen a lot of subtitles that are just completely, not even reviewed. So
I couldn't do that. My
that's,
OCD would go crazy.
but hang on a minute. When you're editing a lot of videos, there are these, like I use the script, and the script is fantastic, but it does put it puts periods at the end of a sentence when it's not the end of its sentence. So the next sentence is, starts with a capital letter, the first
Right.
word, and that annoys the heck out of me. But I'm like, hey, that's what it is, right?
If you delete the period, it'll turn it back into lowercase. But then you have to review it.
But that's an added, I just look for, making sure if they mention browns, make sure that the browns are well, make sure there's nothing like out of, I've had, European porn. And that was not at all what I said, right? So, I mean,
Doug had that on one of his clips recently. He had the F word on it, and that's not what he said.